and the little bit of information that I have here says that Dell SecureWorks processes more than 15 billion security events across thousands of networks around the globe on a daily basis. So Lee is going to talk to us about the latest updates on cyber risk landscape. And the other nice gentleman from Dell promised me a laptop if I mentioned managed security services, or was it just some more biscuits?
Biscuits.
Yeah,
it's definitely biscuits.
It was worth a try. Lee,
biscuits, though.
Thank you.
Anybody know what that means? Kind of scary red flashing light.
Well, you're going to see a green light awesome. Come on now, and when the amber light comes on, you have 3 minutes, and if the red light starts flashing, you disappear through the floor.
Brilliant. Okay, hi everybody, my name's Lee Lawson. I'm here to talk to you about the threat landscape, or the Threatscape as we like to call it. Now, Paul touched on this earlier, and we're going to go into a bit more depth on the intelligence side of it. Last presentation before lunchtime, give you a lot of scary stuff to think about over lunch. So I lead the security testing and response team for Dell SecureWorks in EMEA. So that's all about the hacking and the response services, so the forensics, the investigating Trojans and viruses and malware and hacker attacks on client networks. And I lead that team. So that's why I'm here talking to you about all the bad, dangerous stuff that's happening out there. Now, Dell SecureWorks, what do? Just a couple of slides talking about what we do to lay out our position and why we're the right people to talk to about Threatscape and the landscape out there. So we monitor networks for our customers, we manage those networks and those devices, and we also respond to security threats. And as you briefly mentioned there, billions of events every year we monitor across our systems. In numbers, so we operate in 70 countries. We've got more than 3,000 customers out there, more than 3,000 networks that we monitor and manage and respond to. These numbers change all the time. 13 billion events every day, 4.5 trillion events we process per year, or last year, 4.5 trillion. Not exactly, but close enough. And that gives us a very unique position within the industry. We've got a truly global visibility. We've got sites everywhere, monitor all those countries. We've got a UK security operations center, and quite rightly, whoever said earlier about the Patriot Act. If you want to keep your data within Europe, make sure you don't send it across to America. But we also have SOCs in America and across the world. 5 of the Fortune 10, always have numbers about how big and important we are. So not only are we global and we operate on a very large scale, but we also operate at high quality. And Gartner and the Forrester Wave both place SecureWorks, Dell SecureWorks, at the top right of every quadrant that we do. So we're market leaders. We've got the truly global visibility. And that gives us a very unique position. It allows us to have a very effective intelligence gathering service within our organization, which we can then pass on that information to our customers. So the view, we've got a lot to get through on this, and it's quite scary stuff, so I do need to spend a bit of time on some of it. The view from our security operations center. Well, it's not a lovely landscape out there. It's not peace and lovely things and clouds. It is a bit like the trenches. What we've got at the moment is a war of attrition. We've got hackers and the bad people and the organized crime using hacking techniques to continue their goals, to gain money, to gain power. And we've got the defensive organizations, Dell SecureWorks, the Arbor organizations, working hard to try and help our customers against that threat. But where they make some advances, we then make some advances. And we see the trenches really moving only small amounts. And we're just trying to get one over on the other side. And they're trying to do exactly the same thing. They're working out how our systems work and trying to work out a new way of getting around it. So this is the latest information. So over the last 3 months, what we want to tell you about is what's happening right now. So this is a logarithmic chart. So it goes up logarithmically. If the line is going up, it's a bad thing, right? So we've got malware activity across our customers, as I say, truly global visibility. And we've got a number of different malware artifacts being seen across our customers and across other systems as well. And we can see we've got fake AV. Has anybody here been affected by fake AV? There should be a lot of people in the audience nodding on this because it's very prevalent. The fake AV is that sort of scareware type product where, oh, you've got a virus, download this tool, and we'll fix it for you. But there's a number of things with fake AV. Yeah, the virus will seem to disappear, but we have seen occurrences of the payment process where you put in your credit card details to buy their product and get rid of the antivirus or get rid of the virus. But the first time you put in your credit card details, it will say, payment declined, please use another card. You put in another one, payment declined, please use another card. And we're all going, nah, no one's going to do it a third time. The third time, the payment will go through on the third card. And what are they doing? They're just harvesting credit card numbers, aren't they? They're getting valid credit card numbers, and then your virus will disappear, and you go, oh, I'm safe again. Not really. You're going to find a large bill in your credit card soon. So fake AV, very prevalent. We're seeing it a lot. Also, we're seeing a butterfly bot, the sort of dropper really for a lot of the banking Trojans like Zeus and Spy and Banco, all these other Trojans, banking Trojans, really targeting financial organizations and the people that use those organizations. So we're seeing a lot of them too. Recent attacks. So the London Stock Exchange was attacked recently, not long ago. And if you had gone to the website, you may have seen a picture like this or a pop-up like this appear. And if you say ignore warning or you say go back, whatever you really do, it starts to affect your machine. And it was mentioned earlier about drive-by browser attacks. If you've got a web browser that has a vulnerability in it, just by going to a website, you could well be infected by some of these malware artifacts. Dangerous stuff. And it kind of affected the London Stock Exchange massively. A lot of money lost there. One really effective way that the organized crimes have worked out of spreading this malware is to use online advertisements. Now, a company called Unanimous, this has got a little spotter on it, hasn't it? Yeah. A company called Unanimous there is an online advertising company. So they send adverts to the likes of Yahoo, Spotify, all these other Auto Trader, people like that. So you get the banners at the top, the adverts scrolling through. Unfortunately, some of them were infected with malware. So they had code within the flash advertisement. And that then would drop onto your system some malware, a dropper like the butterfly bot. And then that would then allow the organized crime hacking organizations to further drop on more malware onto your system, depending on what they're looking to do. Interesting thing here is Spotify. Anybody use Spotify? Online music kind of system, and it has the rolling advertisements through it. Great. Online music, fantastic, I love it. However, interesting thing is that one of the e-crime investigators for the Metropolitan Police was recently attacked by using Spotify. One of his colleagues was going to go to New York to do a presentation, so he brought up New York on his laptop, played it in the office. Oh, isn't that good? Next thing you know, bang, he's got a Trojan on his machine. Why? Because the Spotify rolling advertisements were infected. So when he had it on his machine, about 5 minutes later, the infected advertisement popped up on his screen. His browser was affected, and he's lost. Something else happened recently with a friend of mine there, where a colleague of mine, where his wife had left their laptop at home with Hotmail up on the screen. Now, she hadn't downloaded anything. She hadn't gone to a website to download anything. But again, the Hotmail's got those scrolling advertisements. And Unanimous is a big content provider to a lot of these organizations. And again, something like 6 hours later, just having the machine on and the adverts scrolling through, their machine was infected by Zeus. And we'll talk about Zeus in a moment. So it's dangerous. What can you do? Scary stuff. Any Apple fanboys? I've noticed a couple of... I love Apple. I work for Dell, but I love Apple. But you're not immune to it anymore. As the Apple market share, especially in the business and the commercial market space, increases, you're becoming more of a target. There's more value in attacking Apple software. And if anyone's seen this on their machine, it's another scareware product. An interesting one, actually, because the Mac Defender malware, again, it was asking you for your credit card details to clean your machine. But if you didn't go through that, it randomly popped up pornography on your machine. And there was a teacher in the US who was actually fired from their school because he went in, a substitute teacher, went in to teach a class. Suddenly, some pornography popped up on the screen. Kids complained to their parents. Parents got him sacked. He then sued the school because he said, look, I turned up today. I used your machine. That popped up on the screen. You can't sue me because you don't have proper security. And a nice thing about it is there's a lot of industry experts on their own dime flew down to this court case and said, presented evidence in that teacher's favor, saying, you know, this is a virus, this is how it works, you can't fire him, it's your fault, not the teacher's. So again, it's another one. So Apple were being affected. Truman. So we've got a system called Truman, which is the reusable malware analysis network. It's a virtual environment where we can place malware into it. And it has no idea it's inside this virtual world. It's an amazing correlation to the Truman movie. Virtual world, we can monitor it, we can see what it's doing, and we can analyze what's going on. Whenever we see new viruses and new malware artifacts, we put it into Truman, we pull the intelligence out of it, and we use that information to then place into our security devices on the internet that we're monitoring to protect our customers. And our VP of our counter threat unit, which is our research team who kind of really use this the most, he, quite ironically, he was going to do a presentation on the Threatscape, this kind of presentation here, and he was getting images from Google just to do images like this. The Google search results had been infected by an organized hacking group, and it managed to drop on Zeus onto his machine. Now, he then noticed his browser crash. He then looked through his machine, looked at what was going on, pulled out the malware. He's like an expert in this. He's one of the world leaders. Pulled out the malware, put it into Truman. Truman noticed and analyzed that malware immediately and said, yeah, this has got Zeus within it. It then took a further 3 weeks before his antivirus vendor that he's got on his computer, his home computer, before that realized that there's a virus on his machine. Another 3 weeks before the other vendors actually caught up, which is a problem. We're constantly on the back foot against these new attacks when we're trying to develop systems which are more proactive and more adaptable to new threats. And this is one of our tools, and it's incredibly useful. Whenever I'm doing a penetration of a client and we're trying to put on some mess around with their system to try and gain access, we might use this. If we find something on their network, interesting statistic, over the last year, of all the new companies and new clients we've brought on, 100% of them had some kind of virus on their network. Every single one of them, which is scary. And we take on about one a day. So we've got this. Incredibly useful for our intelligence services and our CTU. And what do we see from this? We see an interesting profile for an attack. So here we have two different attacks, and they're malware attacks like Zeus or SpyEye. And what we see is early on, we have 2 small attacks, small deployments of the malware. And that's them testing it, making sure it works, making sure it's working in the way that they expect it to. And then later on, a period of time later, we see the big full deployment. And the darker the bars, the more hosts have been affected. So a small bit, a period of time later, when they might go back and change it in some way, and then a full-on deployment. Now, the challenge for us in this situation is to detect it at that bit, put in all our defenses, analyze it, put it into Truman, work out what it's doing, put all the signatures together and the heuristic scanning and all this good stuff that we do, and then put it in place before the full-on deployment so our customers are not affected by that. It's difficult. We may not see this small deployment. Depends on how they do it. Depends if they're affecting one of... Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. He's like, so if they're not infecting one of our customers, we wouldn't necessarily see it because we monitor our customers, 3,000 plus customers. It's a good visibility, but it's not everything. We don't see everything, but we see a lot. And we put defenses in place at this point here. In the last week, what have we seen through Truman? So whenever malware comes into any of our customers as well, and we detect it as malware, we put it through Truman automatically, and it feeds back as a sort of infinite loop of scary intelligence. We're still seeing, we're seeing other things like the butterfly bot, other Trojans and fake AV here, but we're still seeing the 3 banking Trojans very prevalent within our systems and people trying to attack our customers. They're not necessarily getting in, they're just trying to attack it and trying to get it through into their networks. So your Trojan Bankos, your odd job Trojan, your SpyEye and your Zeus, which are now combining together. Still very prevalent. There's still a lot of money in that, even though antivirus vendors are catching up and they're better at detecting this stuff, but we're not perfect. Last week, we saw 814 individual domains being attacked through these banking Trojans. So your RBS, your Bank of Ireland, your Citigroup, all these types of banking organizations, 814 different domains within their organizations. 127 of those domains weren't actively being attacked. And I'll talk about how Zeus works in a moment, briefly. All they were doing was information gathering. I'll come on to that. Now, out of the UK Payments Association, i.e. all the banks that take payments, online payments and online banking and banks, there's 27. 22 of those 27 were being actively targeted by Zeus and SpyEye and the Trojan Bankos. It's prevalent. It's very big, and there's a lot of money still coming in from this. And as Paul said earlier, it literally takes 5 minutes to download the code, configure your command and control server, hire a botnet, and off you go. It's not difficult. It's all on Google. It's literally point-and-click attacks. It's quite scary. But how do they get onto your network? How does Zeus get onto your network? There's lots of different ways. It's been mentioned about USB keys in parking lots. I do that myself when I'm doing a pen test. It's brilliant. It works so many times. But this is an email that the guy in charge of SecureWorks, right? He got this email. He read it, and he's not stupid. And he went, yeah, this isn't a real email from Salesforce. We use Salesforce. So we sent it on to our CTU guys. They looked at it, and they looked at the URL here, click this link to solve this problem. I do this a lot as well as social engineering and pen testing. Works nearly every time. They analyzed the link. They went to the link. They downloaded the malicious software. They put it through Truman. They said, yeah, if you had clicked that link with 0-day vulnerabilities in browsers, you would have been infected by Zeus. And this is what is this? This is phishing. This is a phishing attack. Very easy. I did it this week, actually. And very successful. People don't kind of expect this, and you're not just hitting the experts within your organization, the people who know about security and configure your firewalls. You're hitting everybody. The office administrator, the janitor who might have an email account on your network. Any one of them could click that link, download the malware, boom, it's on your network. So I mentioned about the information gathering. So Zeus was 127 different banking domains. It was doing information gathering. What we mean by that is, so Zeus, anybody know how Zeus works? A couple of people? Right. So it's a banking Trojan. It's there targeting online banking users. It sits on the user's machine. And when you bring up your online banking, your bankofireland.com/login, whatever web page, the Trojan replaces bits of that web page. Right? It's been configured to do that. It knows the domains, changes the logon screen. So you put in your username and password, it actually goes into the Trojan, goes somewhere else, comes back, but then still logs you in. It can also change, very clever, changes your account summary statement. So you don't see the transactions that it's been doing for you. You go, oh, look, my bank's still saying I've got this much money. Whereas in reality, you don't. If you went to a non-infected machine, you would see something different. Kind of scary. But the bad guys don't have accounts for all these banks. They couldn't possibly have a bank account in every single bank in Europe. So what they're doing is through the information gathering on Zeus, is they're just scraping the screen, getting all the HTML code, getting all the images, and dumping it off to their command and control server. For them to then analyze, to change the way Zeus works and to affect more banks. It's very scary stuff. And Zeus can be configured in different ways, like scraping and information gathering or attacking. But essentially, it looks for URLs or keywords in URLs like Cash Plus, which is PayPal. And then whenever something hits on that, It will then change the way that screen looks. You put in your details, boom. I use boom a lot, don't I? Money starts disappearing from your account, but you don't know it's disappearing. Scary. So that's very prevalent. Online banking Trojans, very prevalent. We're still seeing a lot of that, and there's still a lot of money in it. Something else we're seeing, intellectual property theft. Organized crime, commercial espionage. We're starting playing with the big boys now rather than just the individual hackers drinking Coke, eating pizzas in their bedroom. It's gone away from the war games type of image of a hacker. It's very organized, it's very structured, and it's very dangerous. Poison ivy. Normally this presentation is all about giving away some of the raw intelligence we find. And this is one of the things. So we took on a new customer, a pharmaceutical customer, and they called us and said, we've got a problem. We don't know what's going on, but something's happening on our network, and we can't explain it. So we went in and we started analyzing what was going on, doing a response services, and we found out that they had Poison Ivy, which is a remote access Trojan. It allows kind of remote desktop, it's a bit like Daneware remote desktop onto their systems, on their domain controllers on the inside of their network. Taking all their intellectual property, all their new recipes for some pharmaceutical products that they're coming up with, and sending it off to a command and control server in China. They were not very happy about this. And through the analysis, we had worked out it's been there for about 9 months. They were incredibly scared about this. Intellectual property for a pharmaceutical company is their whole business. If they lose that, if they lose their secrets, other organizations can come along and beat them to the market. Dangerous stuff, Poison Ivy, and the Trojan. And as I say, most of it gets on. I shouldn't really throw out things like that, most of it. One way of getting malware onto your systems is through spearfishing. It's through those emails, targeted emails for a specific person and built for that specific person, like the Salesforce email. I was sending ones this week as part of a social engineering test where I started sending spam email to some of the people in my customer because I was trying to hack into them. They asked me to. Increasing their awareness of spam email in their inbox. And then a few days later, I sent them an email saying, you may have experienced an increase in spam activity. We're now going to transfer to a new spam filtering system. Please send me your details and we'll get you migrated straight away. And people fall for it. It shocks me that people still fall for that sort of thing. Never give away details, ever. Especially if I'm emailing you, because I will get access. But we see it a lot. And spearfishing is very difficult to defend against because it's got the human factor in there. If the user reads the email, believes the scenario, and clicks a link, that's a big problem. You can't really defend against human activity. You can do certain things, yeah, sure. It's also difficult to detect from an email filtering perspective. We can find spam and we can look at malware inside emails as attachments and images. But if it's just text of a URL link, it's very difficult to detect and defend it against getting into your organization. So things like user awareness is a really good defense against this kind of thing. And this is one we did, an analysis we did recently. Kind of scary, and it came to us in a very weird way, where very high-powered people were speaking to very other high-powered people and slowly filtered down the chain. We've seen this. Can you ever look at it? It comes down to us. And this Trojan was a very targeted Trojan using Google code to send and receive information from infected hosts. So it was sending like XML files back up to Google code, and then that was going off somewhere else, and then it was ended up in China somewhere. Not all attacks come from China, but we have seen quite a lot recently. And it was interesting because it was using Google code. And if you looked at it on a network perspective and you looked at it like that, you would just think, well, it's one of our developers using Google code or someone's browsing Google. Nothing dangerous within that. But the way it worked was to talk to Google code and send its information out that way rather than directly to an IP somewhere in China. And if you blocked Google code, it would then try other techniques to get out. And it would go through things like Babelfish and Google Translate and translate the information into a different language and then use that as a hopping point into Google code. Incredibly dangerous. And we've blanked out these things down here because we wrote this analysis and we gave it to all our customers as part of our threat intelligence service. And literally about 10 minutes later, we got a call from a very upset scared customer of ours, saying these project code names down here were part of a, this has been videoed, isn't it? Part of a defense contract for a new communication system. And they were very worried about that intellectual property being leaked. And we're like, sorry, but this is out there. We now need to help you defend against this. Scary. So there's been a couple of mentions about the RSA breach. Anybody know how it happened? Spearfishing email was the start point. Well, something else we've seen recently as well is the smoke screen attacks. And it was mentioned briefly earlier about the Sony attack where we got a DDoS attack going on, but that's really a smoke screen for a very targeted low and slow attack underneath it to try and gain access. It's kind of the same sort of thing happened here as well. Phishing email went through to an employee inside RSA. Trojan got onto their system. That was the start point of this whole attack. Then ended up getting out the synchronization data for the RSA keys. Boom. Done it again. It all exposed. And then implicated a lot of people, a lot of very powerful organizations, people like Lockheed Martin, defense contractor, building planes and whatever else they build. Dangerous. Again, a phishing email. It was a very simple attack. It's a very old attack. It's nothing new. The antivirus systems aren't particularly good at detecting viruses. You would have thought they would be. But the way that hackers are now repackaging their viruses and putting in, and Paul did it on the video earlier, putting a random string of characters, and that uses that to mutate the virus and change the way it looks. So if your antivirus system is only using signature analysis, instead of looking at how a virus looks, look at what it's doing. That's the better way of defending against viruses, but not all vendors do that. It's an old attack, using old tools, old techniques, and still gaining access to RSA, and then Lockheed Martin and all the other organizations that are affected by this. Was anybody worried when that hit the newspapers? Yeah. We don't use RSA though. So Stuxnet, that was 3 minutes. Stuxnet was mentioned earlier. It's common knowledge now that Stuxnet was a piece of malware which was targeting the Natanz nuclear power plant in Iran. We know that because 60% of all events around Stuxnet occurred in Iran, globally. So 60% of everything around the world was in Iran. So we're like, all right, someone's attacking Iran. And it's been known now that and analysed that the whole reason for it, the whole purpose of this malware was to prevent Iran from getting the nuclear bomb. It was to disrupt their enrichment of uranium to get to weapons-grade uranium and to then make the nuclear bomb. But what's quite interesting about this came out, what, last year? February 07. This is a graph from a Washington Post article about using quite mocking language of the Iranians, saying, oh, they're never going to make the bomb. Look at this information here. This is the number of machines they've got to enrich uranium. So they're, I've forgotten what they're called now. Gas turbines to spin it and enrich uranium. As this green line goes up, you should see a massive increase in the number of kilograms of enriched uranium. Okay? Quite direct correlation there. And the mocking language was as they were putting in new gas turbines and their enriched uranium was going up, everyone was a bit worried. And then suddenly there was a big drop-off. And they were using the mocking language saying, oh, they can't even do it properly. We shouldn't be scared of Iran. This is actually the first occurrence and response of the Stuxnet malware. And it occurred, what, August, November 2008? Before anybody had even heard of this, somebody had detected the fact that the Natanz plant was infected by Stuxnet. We just didn't know why they couldn't enrich this uranium. Turns out it was and that's the Natanz plant. Turns out the way it's a very dangerous virus, malware, it changed the way these turbines were spinning up and down, and it ended up breaking them. But cleverly, it also changed the way that information was being reported back to their SCADA systems. So if you're looking at your Siemens control systems, it looks as if everything was fine. But without you knowing about it, your turbines are spinning in different oscillations and just broke. And he's like, why is this all this stuff breaking? Very clever virus, very clever Trojan. And there was some talk earlier about who created this. And there's lots of rumor about this. If you were to ask me what my opinion was on who created this, I would say we're moving into cyber warfare. It's not an organized crime gang. I would say, this is my opinion, I would say that it's going to be a state-sponsored organization. Who doesn't want Iran to get the bomb? I don't want Iran to get the bomb. I don't want anyone to have the bomb. Who has enough information and access to the types of systems, the Siemens control systems, the SCADA systems, to build a piece of malware that will do what it did, spin up these turbines, break them, but also not report that information back to the control systems? I think it first came out with a picture of a Hamas general retiring, and in the background there was a picture on a screen of an Natanz plant. And everyone, oh, Hamas did it. And then there's rumors about people in Siemens doing it. But you know, you keep following this all the way back, and it comes back to sort of one type of superpower. I'm not going to say it, but you know who I'm on about, right? People don't want Iran to get the bomb. I'm okay with that. I don't want Iran to get the bomb. I don't want anyone to have it, as I said. But how do they do that? So, for example, the US government couldn't possibly, 30 seconds, huh? The US government couldn't possibly do that themselves, right? They don't have the, they do have the capability, but there's other ways of doing it. The future of warfare, future warfare is not, as far as I'm concerned, I'm ex-army, right? I know what the future of warfare is. It's not nuclear explosions. We're too scared of it. No one's going to be doing it anymore. This is not a war game situation where an intercontinental ballistic missile is going to blow up, right? The future of warfare is this kind of picture. It's people attacking the cyber systems, your infrastructure. Stuxnet could be easily configured just to take everything down. It's so dangerous. This is the future. Cyber warfare, organized, state-sponsored cyber warfare. And if I was to point a finger at anybody for Stuxnet, there is a commercial company in America who research vulnerabilities. And instead of exposing that and putting it onto full disclosure websites saying there's a vulnerability with this product, they keep hold of it. And they then sell that at a contract, on a contract basis to anybody who wants to buy it. So for $2.5 million a year, you get 25 deliverables per year. And that's 25 ways of hacking into anything. They do the zero-day vulnerabilities. At $2 million a year, you get a lower level of service. But for $2.5 million, these guys will build you bespoke attacks. They will build you something like Stuxnet. They will build you Zeus, but for a reason. And these people who go to these organizations aren't there to take money out of your granny who's doing online banking for the first time. They're there to stop things like Iran getting the bomb. Now, it's quite scary, that. But what's the difference between this commercial organization doing cyber warfare research and British Aerospace Systems and Lockheed Martin building weapons and planes? It's just a different commercial company doing this for a reason. We don't have a problem with Lockheed Martin selling planes to whatever country out there with weapons. Why would we have a problem with this company doing the same thing but on the cyber warfare side of it? Don't ask me later about who that is or where they are. I'll just say America. Well, it's got dollars on it anyway, so because I can't tell you, especially on camera. I'll briefly get through this. So Anonymous and Lulsec changed cyber warfare recently over the last 6 months or so. This here is some traffic we detected through one of our customers where internal employees on a bank in a country somewhere where they thought they'd get on the Anonymous bandwagon. We like what they're doing against the WikiLeaks thing. We're going to download their LOIC tool, the DDoS tool, download it onto their internal corporate machines on the inside of this bank, and became part of that attack. When we first detected this, we thought our customer was under attack. And then we're like, no, the traffic's going the out way. Someone on the inside has downloaded that DDoS software and is attacking like Visa and PayPal and stuff like that. Corporate America, corporate systems, people downloading this stuff. Generation Y, I think it's called now, where people are less clear about morals and ethics, especially in the computer world. Scary, scary. Licset, quickly again. Oh, numbers, right. PlayStation Network, 2.2 million credit cards stolen, 77 million identities stolen. One of them being mine. Sony placed the cost of this at $171 million, right? Direct cost of being offline for about 2 weeks. People are estimating that the real cost, the end cost, of when all these 77, including me, million people get in touch with them and say, I'm suing you for not protecting my data, it could well be $24 billion. But that's a high-end estimate. It's going to be somewhere in between the two. It's certainly going to be more than 171. New actors. Right, what do we see? We're seeing graffiti artists. It happened this weekend with Fox News their Twitter account being attacked and someone posting a message saying Barack Obama's been shot dead. And America waking up, oh, the president's dead. No, someone attacked their Twitter account, posted it online. It's graffiti, it's kind of disruptive. We're still seeing lots of fraudsters, bot masters, bot herders, banking Trojans, stealing your money. We're now seeing much more hacktivism. So the anonymous, the lulsec people, they've changed the way we look at it. Lulsec are kind of in trouble at the moment. They're kind of all falling apart. Foreign intelligence services. I'm not blaming China or pandas, but we do it. The UK do it. Something I used to do in the army was very similar to this sort of stuff. We do it. We should expect other nations to do it. But they're using old tools, old techniques. They're nothing new. It's nothing very clever and ingenious way they're doing it. Anyone know HB Gary? The CEO of that company wanted to expose Anonymous and release all their names. And they said, no, don't do that. And he said, no, I'm going to do it at the RSA conference. And they went, no, seriously, don't do that. And he went, no, I'm definitely going to do it. This is the picture of their stand at the RSA conference. Nobody turned up for it. Why? Because through a SQL injection attack on their website, SQL injection has been around for years, they broke into their website. Their password hashes were stolen. They weren't salted. They weren't protected properly. CEO uses the same password on his website as he does for his Google Docs and his Twitter account and all the other systems he uses. Same password. And CEO of a information security company. They stole that. They broke into other systems. They stole something like 6 odd gigabytes of email and posted it online. And something Paul mentioned earlier, which is a very interesting slant to this. The value of that company plummeted, went down to 0. Not $10, 0. Nobody wanted to buy them. They were actually looking to sell just before that event. And Anonymous just took them to pieces through a SQL injection attack and then social engineering attacks and password cracking attacks. Old stuff, nothing new. They're finding that weak link in your defenses and they're going for that one weak link and then getting it in. Here you have malware. Anybody get affected by the here you have one? We were in that floor of that building the day that corporate America was attacked by here you have. And we came out of the lift and the CISO of the company said, can't talk to you, something's happening, it's all going really bad. And we're like, well, we're here, well, let's help you out. The UK wasn't really affected, UK and Europe really wasn't really affected by that because of a time zone difference. It hit America first thing in the morning. By the time sort of Europe woke up and started switching on their systems, all these security vendors had kind of caught up because it was very bad. That, here you have, was done by a jihadist teenager doing it to try and take down the West from his laptop in Manchester in the UK with a 3G USB dongle and took down most of corporate America for a few hours. Scary. But, yeah, last slide. This is probably the biggest problem we face. So this is a friend of our VP of CTU who uses his online banking with his RSA tokens and writes his username and password on the RSA tokens to log onto his system. So it's not about high-tech threats and high-tech attacks. We're still facing this. And you're just like, really? And they spend millions on their defenses. There you go. I'm only 8.5 minutes overrun. Sorry about that. Thank you. If you've got any questions, come and see us at the stand. Also,